Hey guys, and welcome back. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving break. So I just want to catch you up a little bit before we move forward. We're doing about 4 or 5 new topics before Christmas break, and we are testing these next week. So make sure you're ready. The week before Christmas break, you are taking a final because this is a high school course, so you do have to take a final. This final is 10% of your grade. So the actual grade for this 9 weeks is 20%, and then the grade for last 9 weeks is 20%, and then this test will be 10%. So even if you've maintained an A this whole time, if you get an F on this test, you will drop down to about a C or a low B. Okay, so really make sure you're studying. I'm going to give you a study guide this week. Make sure you're completing it, asking any questions you need to before the test starts. So let's go ahead and get started with this. So we are looking at substitution. Here are your steps. So choose which variable you want to isolate, choose the equation you want to change, plug in your expression into your old equation. Make sure you only have one variable. That's super important. If you look through and you have an X and Y still, after you've substituted, you did something wrong, okay? Solve for the new variable, plug in your answer, and solve for the other variable. So here we go. Example 1. We have 2x minus 3y equals -1, and y equals x minus 1. So we're going to go ahead and we notice that this one is already isolated for the variable. It's already solved, so we don't actually have to change anything. So we can go ahead and skip steps 1 and 2 almost. We're going to go ahead and use this equation to plug into the other one. So this is what I mean. I'm going to rewrite the first equation. So 2x minus 3 parentheses equals -1. So I'm taking out the y because I'm saying that y is x minus 1. So let's go ahead and take out that y, put a parentheses. Now we're going to take x minus 1 and plug it into the parentheses to make one equation. So if I look, I need to make sure I only have one variable, which is x, and I see I've got 2x minus 3 parentheses x minus 1 parentheses equals -1. So if I had a y still, I know that I did something wrong. But in this case, I have an x, so I'm good to go. So 2x minus 3 parentheses x minus 1 equals -1. First thing we're going to do is distribute that -3 to everything. So we've got 2x minus 3x plus 3 equals -1. So now we combine like terms. We end up with -1x plus 3 equals -1. Subtract that 3 over to isolate that x. -1x equals -4. So we are dividing by -1 on both sides. And then we're going to end up with x equals 4. Okay, so it's really important to know that our solution, just like when we were graphing and finding that intersection, our solution is an ordered pair. So it's not just the x or just the y, unless it's a griddable and they're asking for the x or y value. In this case, they're asking for the solution, so we want the whole ordered pair. So we're going to go ahead and plug in that x equals 4 to the original equation and solve for y. So since that y equals x minus 1 is already simplified for us, it's just x minus 1. I know if I plug in 4 for x, I just do 4 minus 1 and y is 3. So that's pretty easy, just really straightforward. And then my solution is 4, 3. And that's it for the first example. If you want to go ahead and pause here and write this down, which you definitely should, I'll wait. Okay, next example, we're going to go on to -7x minus 2y equals -13 and x minus 2y equals 11. So if you notice on this one, we don't have an isolated variable, so I need to choose a variable to isolate. Normally, because you guys are so used to solving for y, you'll want to just out of habit, you'll want to pick the y. However, I know that either one, if I pick the top equation and isolate for that y, I'm going to end up with 13 divided by 2, which is a fraction. And then on the bottom, I'm going to end up with 11 divided by 2, which I don't want either of those. So I see that that x has a coefficient of 1. So I'm going to go ahead and solve for that x instead because it's just so much easier. It's friendly, it's right there. So we solve for x just like we solve for y. We just move whatever's connected using inverse operations. So I need to get rid of that negative 2y. To get rid of negative 2y, I do plus 2y to both sides. It is not a like term of 11, so I'm just going to end up with x equals 11 plus 2y. And now I am taking my original equation, my first equation that I did not change. So the one that is still in its original form, I am taking that equation. Do not mess up and take the one you solved for and plug it back into itself. You're not going to get an answer. So I have negative 7 parentheses minus 2y equals negative 13. In the parentheses, I am putting in my 11 plus 2y. So let's go ahead, plug that in. Negative 7 parentheses 11 plus 2y parentheses minus 2y equals negative 13. Make sure you only have y's throughout the whole equation so that you're not messing up. If you end up with two variables, you're not going to be able to solve for one variable. You're going to always end up with an expression, which is what you don't want. So make sure there's y's. So now we're going to distribute that negative 7 to everything, so the 11 and the 2y. And we're going to end up with negative 77 minus 14y minus 2y equals negative 13. Combine like terms, so negative 14y minus 2y is negative 16. So negative 77 minus 16y equals negative 13. Whew. Add 77 to both sides. You get negative 16y equals 64. Divide by negative 16 on both sides. Make sure you don't forget that negative. And you end up with y equals negative 4. Okay? So you're not done. You still have one more step, which is to now solve for x. So we're going to go ahead and plug it in. Since I have x equals 11 plus 2y, I'm going to plug into that equation because it tells me what x is. So I literally will just do PEMDAS and be done. So x equals 11 plus 2, parentheses, negative 4. Solve, and you end up with x equals 3. And our answer is 3 comma negative 4. Make sure you don't mix up the x and y. Make sure you're putting the x in the correct part of the coordinate point and the y in the correct part. And on multiple choice tests, you may have both where they've flipped it. So you really need to make sure you're doing the right step at the right time. All right? And that is